Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 14 in a series where we create a design system in Figma called FDS. In this episode, we're making the sticky button.
Okay, and from now on, I'm not going to be grabbing the intros from Component Gallery. I'm just going to grab them from my own design system called Scale, and I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video. But if we get back to what a sticky button is, sticky buttons remain fixed in a specific position on the screen, typically at the bottom. And you can see that we're in the Components.App library. This is just a component that we use in the app, not in web. So let's just stay here and put it together. And before we do, let's look at a couple of components I prepared earlier that we're going to nest inside the sticky button. One of them is the sticky button background. And if you look over to the type, we've got surface, gradient blur, and none. If we go down to it, just select surface. It's got surface L3 and shadow L3, which make up its elevation level. That can be placed in the background to give the sticky button a white background that casts a shadow. Then we've got a gradient blur. Now, this has been put together by having a fill that's been set to a background blur of 8, and it's masked with a gradient. And what that does is show you the content around the buttons, but on the way down to the bottom of the screen, everything becomes blurry, like from no blur to a lot of blur. And the other one is none. So if you don't want anything around the buttons and you want to be able to see all of the content, you can do that too. And the other one's in the system page, which is the home indicator, which we're going to place at the bottom of the sticky button. Let's go back to the sticky button and go to Assets and grab the first button that we want to place in here. So we've just gone to create it in this file, button, and we're just going to drag this over here. So let's duplicate it, make that about 8, do it again. And I just did that by Option, Shift, and drag. I'm going to change this one to secondary by going over to the button properties and doing it here. Then I'm going to change this one to tertiary. Now, let's go back to File so we can see the layers. I'm just going to select all of them, group them, call this Container, add Auto Layout, change this, the spacing between them, to 8. Then I'm going to come to the layers again, group it again, and call this sticky button. At this point, we're going to turn it into a component. So let's just go up to group and hit that. And we're going to add under the container, the home indicator. So let's go and grab that. Let's go to system, drag this in. All right, let's drag it underneath the container. Go up to sticky button, add auto layout, which is vertical, and then set its width to 393. There we go. Let's just make sure the container is set to fill. It is, and the home indicator is also set to fill. Great. Okay, from here, we're going to grab container, add 16 left and right padding, then add 16 top and bottom padding, set its height to hug contents, and then change the bottom padding to 8. All right, and now we want to go and grab this background. So I'm just going to duplicate it out of here and then drag it in. I'm going to move it to the bottom here, come over to position and ignore auto layout, which pretty much sets it to absolute. We're going to then go to Y and add 0, so it ends up back at the top. Then we're going to come down, hold down Shift, click here, and here. So it ends up taking up the whole space, and it's going to do that if we just resize it, right? Now, everything's the wrong way around, so let's just select the sticky button, go over to the settings here, go down here and go to first on top. There we go. All right, and we've pretty much set it up, but there's no properties to control it. So let's add them now. So let's open container, go to this button. We're going to rename this button primary, rename this button secondary, and rename this tertiary. Then we're going to go to button primary and select it. Then we're going to come over here and add an appearance property. Hit the plus, show button primary is what we want. The value can be set to true and just create property. Let's select the secondary one and repeat that. and the tertiary one as well. Let's select the component, make sure they're all in the right order, which they are. And now we want to go and add a property up here, which is a nested instance. And we want to turn on everything, right? So, and with that done, let's come over to auto layout, make sure that align bottom left is selected, select the container, and do the same thing here. Let's just drag a instance down here. And I've done that by just holding down Option and Shift and selecting it and moving it. Let's put it 32 pixels away from here and then just test it out. Okay, so we've got the show button tertiary, secondary. There we go. Turn them off and we've just got a primary button. Turn on secondary and we've got a primary button plus a secondary one. And of course you can come over here and change this to confirm or cancel, like that. Let's place it in a frame, add some text so we can see what the backgrounds look like. I'm just going to come over here, hit F for frame, just drag it out, change that to 14 and 15 Pro. Just going to move it up here. Let's add a sticky button test. And here I'm going to add another frame, which takes up the whole screen. This is going to be container. I'm going to add auto layout, then 16 padding at the left and right, and top and bottom. Then I'm going to just press T to add text, write text inside it, and then make sure it's set to fill container. Let's go change its style to regular, its color to content, secondary. Now let's select the text, come down to actions, select rewrite this, replace with, and then replace this with a full screen of text that's talking about sticky buttons. Let's see what happens. All right, that's half of what we need, so let's select it, paste it down there. Then let's go and grab the sticky button that we just created. Okay, let's put that outside of the container at the top, move it all the way to the bottom, and then change its layout to be left, bottom, and right, but not top. Okay, now you can see here that the surface one casts a shadow and actually covers the text. And if I add surface L0 to the background, then change the mode to dark, you can now see that L0 is at the back and darker, and L3 is above that and lighter. Let's turn that back to light mode, change the text to iOS. There you go, just changed from enter to SF Pro Text. Then select the sticky button. Let's turn off secondary. Okay, what happened there? Let's make sure the height of it is set to hug contents. And you can see there that every time we do that, it hugs the bottom. So if we're going to just show the primary one, that's what would happen. And with that selected, let's go back to sticky button and make sure we've turned on nested instances for the sticky button background. Because we're about to go back, select it, go down to where its properties are now available and change this from surface to gradient blur. And if we move in, you can see that the content goes beyond the button and is blurry at the bottom. Now, you can probably see that better if we turn on the secondary button. There we go. Let's just show the primary button. All right, so this is good to show that there is content below the screen that you can scroll up to. And of course, you can also set this to none. I'm going to turn the gradient blur back on. Just zoom out a little bit. Turn the secondary one back on. Just grab this and move it to the bottom. Move this about 64 pixels away from there. And that's it. We're done. We created a sticky button component that you can use in app designs The next episode is going to be about updates. So there's some suggestions that are coming from the community and things I've been thinking myself that we're going to change the system a little bit to make it better. And until then, I hope you're looking after yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.